Ethan had never imagined that a simple favor for his childhood friend would lead him to the grand palace of Aldermere, dressed in ceremonial robes that felt too heavy for his shoulders. Yet here he was, sitting beside Princess Emily during the annual harvest festival, pretending to be her husband in front of thousands of spectators. The arrangement had been Emily's desperate idea. As the only unmarried princess in a kingdom that demanded she present herself with a consort at official ceremonies, she had begged Ethan to play the role for just one evening. They had grown up together in the palace gardens when his father served as the royal gardener, and their friendship had survived even after Emily's royal duties pulled her into a different world. She trusted him completely, and he couldn't refuse those pleading eyes that reminded him of the little girl who once shared her sweets with him behind the rose bushes. The ceremony had been exhausting. Ethan had smiled until his cheeks ached, nodded at dignitaries whose names he couldn't remember, and held Emily's hand with a gentleness that felt too genuine for pretense. She had been radiant throughout the evening, her golden hair crowned with flowers, her emerald gown catching the light of 1,000 candles. Every time she laughed at something he whispered, he noticed how her eyes crinkled at the corners, a detail he had somehow never paid attention to before. Now, as the final hymn echoed through the cathedral and the crowd began to disperse, Ethan felt a strange reluctance to leave. The performance was over. He was supposed to stand, bow respectfully, and return to his ordinary life as a scholar at the Royal University. Emily would go back to being the untouchable princess, and he would be Ethan again, just a commoner with ink-stained fingers and dreams too small for palace walls. He rose from the ornate throne beside hers, preparing to make his exit as they had rehearsed. But before he could take a single step, Emily's hand shot out and grasped his wrist. Her grip was firm, almost desperate, and when he turned to look at her, he saw something in her expression that made his breath catch. "Don't go," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the shuffling of the departing crowd. Ethan froze. The words hung between them like a suspended breath, heavy with meaning neither of them had dared to acknowledge. "Emily, the ceremony is over. I know what you should do," she interrupted, her green eyes searching his face with an intensity that made him feel exposed. "I know what we agreed upon. But Ethan, I'm asking you not to go." Not yet. The cathedral was emptying rapidly now, leaving them in a bubble of silence amid the echoing footsteps. Ethan slowly sat back down, his heart hammering against his ribs. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" Emily released his wrist but didn't pull away. Instead, she turned to face him fully, and he noticed the slight tremor in her hands. "Do you remember when we were children, and I told you I would never marry someone I didn't love? You laughed and said I was being foolish, that princesses didn't have that luxury. I was 12 and thought I knew everything about the world," Ethan said softly, a sad smile tugging at his lips. "I'm sorry I said that. Don't be," Emily replied, shaking her head. "You were right, in a way. My mother has been parading potential suitors before me for 3 years now. Princes, dukes, wealthy merchants, all of them suitable, all of them strangers." She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Tonight was the first time I've sat beside someone and felt like I could breathe." Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to speak, to say something that would ease the vulnerability written across her face, but the words tangled in his chest. This was dangerous territory, a line they had never crossed in all their years of friendship. "Emily, you asked me to pretend I know what I asked," she said, cutting him off gently. "But somewhere between the vows we didn't mean and the dance we shared, I stopped pretending. And I think you did too." He couldn't deny it. The way his hand had lingered on her waist during their dance, the genuine warmth in his smile when he looked at her, the ache in his chest at the thought of walking away, none of it had been acting. Somewhere in the pageantry and pretense, something real had blossomed between them. Or perhaps something that had always been there had finally found its voice. "I'm not a prince," Ethan said finally, his voice rough with emotion. "I have no title, no wealth, nothing to offer you but yourself," Emily finished for him, her hand finding his again. "And that's all I've ever wanted from someone. Not a crown or a kingdom, but a person who knows me, who sees Emily, not just the princess." The last of the attendees had left now, and even the guards had discreetly retreated to the cathedral doors, giving them privacy. In the flickering candlelight, They sat together on thrones meant for royalty. To people caught between duty and desire. Ethan took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would change everything. If I stay, if we pursue this, your mother will never approve. The court will object. There will be consequences. Emily's smile was small but determined. Then let there be consequences. I've spent my entire life doing what was expected of me, Ethan. For once, I want to choose something for myself. I want to choose you. His resolve crumbled like ancient stone. Ethan had loved Emily for longer than he cared to admit, had buried those feelings deep where duty and social boundaries demanded they stay. But here she was, the Princess of Aldermere, asking him to be brave enough to want more than he had ever allowed himself to dream. Then I'll stay, he said, squeezing her hand. For as long as you'll have me. Emily's face lit up with a joy so pure it took his breath away. She didn't care about the scandal they would create or the battles they would face. In that moment, she was simply a woman who had found something real in a world of pretense, and she wasn't willing to let it go. They sat together in the empty cathedral, two hearts finally honest with each other, knowing that their story was just beginning.